If you've been enjoying our podcast as much as we have and hope that we continue past 50 episodes, here's your chance. Here's your chance to help make that happen. By becoming a Patreon subscriber, not only will you help the Little House on the Prairie 50th Anniversary podcast to live on, but you'll also get exclusive content just for you.
Here's what's in store for you. Join monthly Q&A sessions where you can ask us about anything. Whether it's about our work, personal interests, or advice on your own projects, we're here to connect and share.
Enjoy unique content created specifically for Patreon subscribers, including bonus segments from our shows.
You'll have a say in what we create, and you'll have a voice in future content.
Benefit from exclusive discounts on merchandise and entries into special giveaways. It's our way of saying thank you for your support.
Receive personalized shout-outs in videos, podcasts, or social media posts.
Because your support on Patreon allows us to dedicate more resources to creating the content that you love.
You could join the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast community on Patreon and become a Prairie patron for just $5 a month. We thank you so much for your continued support, and we cannot wait to share our ongoing journey with you on Patreon.
We are extremely grateful for the support of VisitSimiValley.com and the city of Simi Valley's belief in Little House on the Prairie and their support of the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast.
Discover the charm of Simi Valley, California, the home of the prairie. Visit Simi Valley, where adventure meets history and the spirit of the prairie comes alive. Explore the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, step aboard Air Force One, enjoy stunning hikes and savor delicious local cuisine. Whether you're here for a weekend getaway or a family vacation, Simi Valley offers something for everyone and is only 30 minutes from Los Angeles. Plan your visit today and experience the best of Simi Valley. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more details. Your adventure awaits in Simi Valley.
Well, you're back, bonnet heads. Thank you so much for being here. How are you? I am Pamela Bob, your host, creator of and star, I suppose. Yes, creator and star of Living on a Prairie. Both. Yes, yeah. I am both of those things. I'm having a little laugh because our producer Tony is in his car while we're recording this, so we were just having a little giggle. Sorry I gave that away, Tony. He's utmost professional. Don't get it twisted. And I am here, as always, with our beloved Prairie bitch. That's right, Alison Arngrim, and our hashtag imaginary boyfriend, Dean Butler. Hello, you guys. How are you?
Hey.
I want to hear.
It's been.
I by the time this episode airs, this is going to be after, but I want to hear. This will be a few weeks past, but I want to hear all about the Cherry Blossom Festival that you both
Alison,
were recently
why
at.
don't you start with that?
It looked like it was a good time.
I mean, it's this cultural thing. It's just
you talked about it so much. I'm intrigued by it.
Cherry Blossom, it was that Waltons girl. It was Mary McDonough was Aaron on the Waltons, talked me into it years ago, and I've been going ever since, and I'm hooked. And she said, it's really surreal. It's a very strange event. And I was like, what? And the next thing I know, I'm auctioning off pies with Grover Cleveland's grandson.
That's so random.
Presidential relatives. They got Washington and Jefferson and Lincoln, and they got historical panels. One year they had a panel about the Titanic and about Pearl Harbor, historical events, presidential relatives, and then celebrities. We had, this year we just lost Lulu Roman of Hee Haw. She was a regular there. But you would get your Waltons type folk and your Prairie type folk, and, Leave It to Beaver and whoever, but then also Hee Haw. And then you just kind of go, wait, what the... And then people
Patrick Duffy from Dallas was the big guest this year.
And then they'll have
he was delightful.
He was brilliant. Really and then chefs from the White House. It's just like what
so it's not necessarily just like Americana, like Little House on the Prairie and the Waltons and presidential relatives and then there's Dallas. So it's not.
But Dallas has become Americana.
And I think it's J.R. Ewing, The American Dream. Strike oil.
True. Right. That is true. Yeah.
No, what you get from Patrick Duffy is someone who is grateful and thoughtful. I mean, you get the sense that there's a very cerebral person there, and he's. I asked him to do a social media hit with me, and he just really wasn't sure he wanted to do that. But look, Richard Thomas didn't want to do one either, and we did what you accused me of being a traitor on. And then,
oh yes, oh no, we're going to talk smack about that, Butler.
But it had 500,000 views.
Of course,
in less
it did.
than 24 hours.
Yes,
I mean,
of course it
know,
did.
So that's why you do.
How did you talk
things.
him into it? Did you say you were gonna?
Actually, it was his handler that talked him into it. Someone who had worked for Earl Hamner for years, and I think he said to Richard, you really, because he was very clear. I don't do that. I don't like it. I'm not interested in it. But he also said during the weekend that he was getting ready to take out the Hal Holbrook Mark Twain Tonight show in August.
Amazing.
I think
I
it is
didn't know
amazing.
he did that.
Well,
wow.
I don't think he's never done it before. This is like a
and
first
he'll be
time.
the first. Yeah, and he'll be probably the first person to ever do it.
He is being sanctioned by the Holbrook estate to do
Holy
it. So,
moly!
Yeah, so it's a big deal.
Wow.
It's a big deal, and I think he's got all the right credentials for it. I'll be interested to see how he approaches. I don't. Holbrook had such a bite on his take on Mark Twain. I don't see Richard Thomas that way. But then I wasn't expecting what he did in Ozark either. I mean, he sort of surprised me in that. So, I mean, he's such a talented guy.
I had a couple of friends on tour with him doing
Oh, yeah, the Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes. I was like, not Blackbird, Blackbird. Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. I bet he was terrific in that.
I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was.
Patrick Duffy's whole speech at the dinner was about gratitude. And humility and appreciating the important things in your life and your family and your life. I mean, he's totally Prairie way. He's totally living the Prairie way. He's one of us.
I mean, we could keep talking about other things, but I think that's a great jumping off point to get into the episode.
Yeah, I'll
frankly.
just say that the Waltons Little House thing, that's my trigger word. The W word is the trigger word. And, I always compare it to like the Jets versus the Sharks, baby, Although, we love everybody. It's just a fun thing to imagine.
Yeah, no,
that there's an actual street war against the Little House on the Prairie and the Waltons.
Well, I did a little video with Cammie Cotner and reminded her that we thrashed them in a trivia contest.
I watched that. Yes, Seth Rudetsky stars in the house.
And she really had sort of put me in my place for that.
What'd she say?
Well, something like, if that's what you need to feel good, then you need
Oh,
to
that's so her.
So, it was something like that. Something like that. And it was funny. She was great. She's terrific. She really is.
That's good. That's a good comeback. That makes me respect them more.
Cherry Blossom is truce. It's a big truce. Waltons and Prairie fans all come together in Dallas. It's a thing.
Well, it looked like you guys had a great time. I was keeping up with all your posts and everything. So, yay. Okay, good. Cherry Blossom. Woohoo. Randomly crazy and weird and wonderful.
All right. Before you throw to our title, I just have to remind everybody that our event's coming up on June 6th, 7th, and 8th. The Little House on the Prairie cast reunion in Gold Country coming up. Now, sadly, we just got the news today that Sydney Robin Greenbush, who was one half of the Baby Carrie twins, is not going to be able to make it. But
she was Baby Care.
She has become unavailable for that weekend, but we understand that her sister Rachel will be there, and I think it's we don't see Carrie often enough at these events, and I think it's very important that they get to feel the love and. So I hope that Rachel does in fact get there. Because
especially if you know how much they put into the Simi Valley Festival last year.
Huge.
They were such a huge part of it, and I have to say, meeting them in person, they are just the coolest, loveliest, intelligent, personable, fun. I just like the one of my takeaways from that weekend was like, Baby Carrie. I love Baby Carrie. I'm so sorry I've made fun of her all these years. They're so wonderful. They really are.
They're very, I think they're very real.
Yeah,
very real.
They're great.
And I think the thing that I always get from them when I'm with them is they genuinely love the program and that they were involved in it. And, I think they have, overall, I think they have nothing but good vibes on it.
Yeah.
I don't pick up on any negative on it at all. It's just, which is really nice, because everyone's got disappointments, but they don't lead with disappointment ever.
And they're smart. I mean, we make fun of Baby Carrie, but Rachel has a degree in accounting. She's smarter than all of us. She can do your taxes.
Yeah, that's what we need, is someone to do the taxes.
Oh my God, imagine if Baby Carrie was your tax accountant. I would die. And she'd also be the first person I'd call. Okay. That would be amazing. All right, shall we get to it, folks?
Yeah, I think we should.
All right.
We should.
Dean, would you like to tell? First
we need the title.
My goodness.
Start again.
I'm excited. Here we go. Starting again. I'm excited. And I'm very tired, y'all. I'm in just finished tech rehearsals for my show. We're starting previews tomorrow, and I'm tired. Here we go. Yes, from the studios of UBN Go in Burbank, California. I'm in New York, however. This is the Little House on the Prairie 50th Anniversary Podcast. Season 2 recap. All right, we're here. Dean, take it away.
Yeah. Okay. So today's episode, season 2, episode 1. So a very important season premiere. The Richest Man in Walnut Grove. I think really a quintessential Little House episode. Yeah. Absolutely. The Richest Man in Walnut Grove premiered on September 10th, 1975. Written and directed by Michael Landon. He genuinely did all the premieres and the finales and at least one sweep and maybe more. He rewrote everything, but this was his script.
Premieres and the finales.
Because that's the big ratings were with the first one he's coming. Sure.
Yeah. And I think when you look at this one, I think launching into season 2, he was there reminding people what the show is all about.
That's what I was going to say, is that it's surprising that this was, not surprising, but like season 2, we already learned this about the Ingalls, that, in season 1, and it's interesting that he reminds us again in the top of season 2, and this episode is so quite simple, but it's back to the core of what this show is all about, right?
So for those who haven't seen it, Alison, why don't you tell us, give us the synopsis of the episode.
Yeah, there's not even a subplot. It's just, this is what happens. When the mill closes due to bankruptcy, because, the company that was supposed to pay the mill for the giant order went bankrupt, and chain reaction. So the mill has to shut down due to the bankruptcy, and Charles loses out on wages. And as Mr. Hansen says, I have no money either. That was going to clear his account at the mercantile. And with the bonus income lost, now the family has to think about how they're going to pay the debts and in fact survive. So they work together to survive. So Charles is working for 25 cents a day, which sounds really bad, but it wasn't as bad then, but still not great. Grooming and caring for horses.
Do we know what that equivalent is today?
What is it?
Look that one up. It's not great. Even then it was like, Mary's making more than that at the dress shop. But grooming and caring for horses, a job that makes him odiferous. Yes, this is smell like a dirty horse. And he takes a second job building an irrigation drain ditch on Baker McKay's farm, fixing his pug mill, which involves more mud and filth. Windpaw.
What is a pug mill?
It is used. Why do I know what a pug mill?
How do you know this?
In grinding up powder, in making like clay for bricks. It would be
that would
be like a brick maker probably.
Yes, and we've been to this man's farm before. What episode did we recap where we went to his
McKay? Something.
It was
and he was a brick maker.
Boom.
What episode? We covered this episode.
I know we've seen the house before. These houses have been they get repurposed many, many times. This was the house that was used on the 100-mile. Did we do the 100-mile walk? Or no, it was the episode where Charles had to go away and they're working in a mine and they're pounding things.
I mean, this might have been the person in the house, but we didn't.
Yeah, it wasn't the
recap
same
them.
actor in the house. It was a different character in the house.
Anyway, I'm sure one of our listeners, one of
Yeah,
our viewers
they will
be
know
like,
and
"It was
remind
this
us.
one,
Why
dummy."
don't you know what the different episodes are, you idiots?
Usually, like for making, it's great.
Anyway, sorry, Allison,
It's
go
a
ahead.
small, like, cement mixer. It's for mixing
Okay.
up, but it's like for brick making, for making stuff.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
why it would be in the water, and it all makes total sense. So he's wearing 25. Then he's doing that, which is also messy. So Pa is stretched to the limit. Caroline and Laura plant a double crop of vegetables for the winter and sell eggs to the mercantile to offset their bill. They're like, we can sell vegetables. Mary leaves school. Mary getting out of school, bad news. Mary leaves school to work for Mrs. Whipple, the seamstress, sewing assorted clothing items for the community. Laura continues in school, bringing home lessons to Mary so she doesn't get behind on her schoolwork. When Laura gets behind, which of course happens, she tells Miss Beadle that she ran out of tablet paper and doesn't want to ask her father to buy it, which is sort of true. And Miss Beadle offers a solution to the problem, and all is much better. She says, I'm going to buy school supplies for my poor children.
Actually, it made it work. It actually was the tipping point in the episode.
What happened? They had to go to the store, and I was there, and then everything went bad. And Miss Beadle didn't know. I did it. I didn't know why she ran away, because I was there. Beadle's struggles are made more dire by the insults of Harriet, Nellie, and Willie Oleson. Yes, they are. Working together, can the Ingalls family sustain themselves and get out of debt? Well, in the end, with love and support of the family, the bill is paid, and Charles Ingalls is the richest man in Walnut Grove.
Can we just take it to the very opening shots of the milking of the cow?
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Pa milking the cow.
When that title card comes up and it's him, little baby Carrie, in a very sweet baby Carrie moment, holding that bucket of milk, and him just walking behind her, and then that title card comes up saying the richest man in Walnut Grove, and right off the bat, I started tearing up, and I was like, he really is the richest man in Walnut Grove. Okay. I mean, it's so
they're
clear
milking
right
a cow
off the
and you're
bat.
crying. It's literally just a cow. A cow appears, and you are sobbing.
It's
so
a very sweet moment. It really is.
It's just like, pow, that title card comes up, and it's like,
Yeah.
And
it's
that's
so
a real
simple.
thing. On the farm, you would learn even the tiniest children to milk the cow because it's relatively easy if parents supervise that you could get the little ones to milk the cow and baby care. Or as she said, I milk the cow.
Is that what she said?
Yes.
I literally wrote down in my
I
notes.
milk the cow.
I literally
You do understand that the cow. You hear the cow. You get
but
that.
there's a scene later inside the house. She says something, and I still do not know what she said.
Know what
and
she
in
said.
my notes, I just have in all bold letters, "What the hell did Carrie
Who's that?
say?"
Sugar.
Well, at the end, she says she wants white sugar, right? Yeah.
And I said,
I don't know. Is
not
it?
need any more sugar?
Yeah, no, she does say, she does say sugar at the end.
She has several choice baby Carrie moments. It's a very heavy baby Carrie episode. It's a very baby Carrie episode. But she can almost talk. She puts up the cow line. It's all about the tablets. I love this episode because, again, it's 1975 now, and the recession is in massive full swing in America.
Yeah.
It's like the books came out in the Depression. And I got to tell you, I mean, I got on a TV series right when it hit. My family, we weren't starving. We had a place to live. We had a car. But my mom was working an extra job because my dad had just started his business right after leaving the big car. And he just started his own company, and they weren't making any money to speak of. And so my mother was working. So when I got the series and said, I could chip in for food. We're like, la, 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 la. It was like everybody go to work, to can eat. So we were Stephen, kind of going oh, yay. I mean, I would not have been able to afford the orthodontics braces. That wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So we roared. My father laughed his ass off when they started going on about we can't afford the tablets, the pencil, this. My father started cracking up. But that's that. Yes, school supplies. This is what everyone is doing right now. Now, people are sitting in front of the show going, I can't go to school.
Yeah, the show premiered on September 10th. I mean, it's back to school time. Everybody's in that mode. I think Michael was just the simplicity of this is. It's so clear what he's doing, and the story tracks so nicely. There's so much love and support in this disappointment that he's experienced. Michael's storytelling just sets everything in motion right off the bat. You don't have to wait for. We know what the problem is about paying off the bill at the Olesons at the end of the week. Well, you know something's going to happen.
Yeah, doomed. Don't even say it.
They were so
something
happy
is
at
going to
the table,
happen.
and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. I'm like,
you're screwed.
Kiss of death.
It's going to be. Yeah.
Kiss of death. What, there's going to be a plague tomorrow? Something terrible.
Something's bad's going to happen.
Something bad's going to happen. Okay, so then I want to say another thing. The first scene in the mercantile with Ma and Mrs. Oleson is sort of very passively aggressively talking about not getting paid, because they've been massively. And Nels has the funny, which turns into a recurring theme.
Yes, this was maybe the first. Was this the first?
Was this the first? Because I was looking for it all in season 1, and this might be the first side muttering that he then turns into a rhyme.
Mutterings.
Yeah, so she said her back is hurting. What did she say? Her back is hurting again? No. He said her back is hurting.
And again, and then he turns it into a 10 and a 10 and a 10.
And a 10 and a 10. I'm just the shoes, a 10 and a 10 and a 10. And that might have been the first one, which turns into just his reoccurring theme for the rest of the show, which is brilliant. The Nels asides are brilliant.
Yeah, and he did them so well.
He's particularly
so
like, Harriet, like he's trying to fight back. He tries to fight her several times. He's like, Harriet, no. But she keeps like just steamrollering the whole thing. And when she has the audacity to say about Caroline about friendship, she's like, what? Because this woman's like so freaking horrible.
She's so horrible.
I mean, I see, and I gotta believe that it's in an episode like this where Catherine had to really seriously take a look at how the direction the character was going in, and
so that she wasn't just
as much
a monster.
as much as Catherine had her, I mean, she had litanies of complaints about things. I mean, there was a lot of complaint that went on, but she was very astute about what she was doing and how she did it. And I think this may have been one of those moments, as important as this episode was, where she started looking at, how am I going to make this character palatable? I mean, she's sort of leaning into that Liam O'Neill ground and, in first episode of season 1, where he's so horrible, evil. You could never have him back again.
But she was also going through foolish. This was around the time.
Well, that's where she was.
That's the perfect word.
Because she's being so grand, and her husband's going, stop it. And then, of course, when they have the money, and she winds up looking like an idiot. She looks like an idiot at every turn. She's being full of herself. And yes. Well, we said, pride, come up before a fall. And he's like, it's going.
Yes. Before destruction or something was what way she said, the way they said it.
She was very horrible once again, very horrible. Nels, how are you married to her?
But then you look at that and you say, but that quality that both Catherine and you, Alison, brought was so essential to making the drama work.
Oh, of course.
You can never underestimate the value of an absolutely repugnant villain. But what's so miraculous is that they did make themselves somehow redeemable.
You wanted to see us again. You wanted to.
Well, also you got a punch in the face, so at least
that was
felt
payback.
like the audience had some sort of relief. I mean, the audience just needs relief from the whole.
We all know these people. Now, Michael directing, and okay, we've talked about him doing this before. Like, okay, what do you do with the scene? Do you do it this setup? Do you do it the 8 million close-ups, or do you do a long shot and not say anything? And that's the whole thing. When Pa has to tell Ma that the mill has shut down and he has no job,
and you see you hear nothing.
Could be
it's great.
Any other TV show, this would have been a whole huge scene with crying and yelling and screaming. He just doesn't come to the house. He stands or goes over by the cows and the chickens, and she knows something's wrong, and she walks to him, and you just from 80 feet away, You see the two of them talk, and you hear nothing, and then they're at dinner. That's it. That's when he tells her.
And then, you go from that to the fiddle.
In the dark. He's playing
in the dark.
Which
you even forgive his bad fiddle mimicking because you feel so bad for him.
Well, the thing that always cracks me up about the fiddle playing, or we call it the fiddle, but Charles does not play fiddle style.
He doesn't, exactly. What the?
He's not doing the double string.
He's not doing any strings, Dean.
Well, no, I get that, but he says he's not playing anything. That would have been up to David to score it with the fiddler.
Right.
And he didn't do that. He treated the violin as a violin, and which always struck me as interesting, because we know from the music that Pa loved to play, the historic music, this was very much fiddle music with a double. And I don't know, you may know more about the term of how but it's two strings at a time. Yeah. Always.
Yeah, and the position on the body is different than a standard.
It is different. Yes, it is set up slightly differently.
Right, but right.
But
we've talked about the fiddle playing before. Yeah,
but anyway, so then you end up in the bedroom, and it's pause. So I love this. The scene opens, and Laura's chewing a hangnail off.
Yeah, sure is.
I mean,
flexibility,
what is that?
baby.
I never thought I'd see anything like that.
I think I used to do that when I was a little girl.
Her mouth, and I want you to know, I texted her this afternoon.
Yes.
As I was watching it, said, I need to know this. And I texted her and said, just saying, I'm watching this episode, and you're chewing your toenails. You're biting not your finger, your toenails in this thing. One, did you ever do anything like that? And for the love of God, how did you even get
flexible?
Her answers are no. She has never actually in real life chewed her toenails. This is good to know. And as to how, very flexible.
Yeah, right. At 9 years old,
turnout,
you can do
good
that.
dancer turnout.
And she wound up dancing. She's a very flexible, agile, and she could just sure. They say, can you chew your toenails? And she went, but of course.
But also, what an odd thing to show. Why? Whose choice was that?
I just thought that was interesting.
I suspect Michael. I suspect maybe she was supposed to be biting her nails, and Michael said, can you chew your toenail? Because he would 100% do that. I can 100% see him going, you can't chew your toenail, can you? And her going, sure, watch. And him going, yes, done. My work is done.
Now that is a moment where I was like, oh, poor Mary has to share this bed. That's when the older sister energy is completely and totally valid. And she was actually quite nice to her. She didn't give her an attitude about that at all.
So obviously this was not an uncommon thing for her to do.
Apparently.
Get out.
But the foot in the mouth, the turnout, the hip flexibility, I'm down for it.
All that.
What a choice to make.
Yes.
So then
I love the line towards the end of the scene where, if you think of something, wake me up. I can't do it because I'll be asleep. And,
oh, right.
Oh, yeah. And they turn over and go to sleep. It's a very sweet
It is a lovely scene. Now, I have questions. Because we get to Ma and Pa, and he can't sleep, and it's and she goes and she says, how about some warm milk? Okay, a normal thing to say, but she's really excited about it. And he's like, oh, wow, warm milk. And then they have the whole terrible conversation about God. And then she's like, let's get that warm milk. Was this code for something? Because they seemed way too excited about a cup of warm milk, like it had way too much significance. Was this code for some other thing that we don't know about with Charles and Caroline?
Is there morphine in that
warm milk?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
What do you mean?
Does it pair well with popcorn, or is it?
He was like,
more like there. Is it more like let's spike the warm milk with some morphine I've got handy? It might be that.
Something.
Little booze in the back, maybe warm milk, a little bourbon,
exactly.
honey,
a little cider cider.
I'm thinking warm milk was way better than warm milk because I never saw two people get so excited in my life. And then blasphemy. I'm sorry. Pa, who occasionally misquotes the Bible and Ma always corrects him.
Right.
He corrected Mrs. Oleson in the Bible. He was right. But at one point, he's devastated. They got no money. He's got kids. And he says, am I worthy? She's like, well, God could be testing you. Am I worthy of God's love? Scree. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of different, okay, all the different churches have things about salvation through deeds, salvation through automatic salvation, but wow, pretty much everyone there's an unconditional. Oh yeah, Old Testament, you can get tested a lot, but the God's love, pretty much unconditional. The worthy of God's love thing, that's pretty much a straight across pass. So that's kind of getting a little touchy that he's actually going, am I worthy of God's love right there? And I'm surprised that Caroline didn't go, whoa, whoa, and start like verses right there and whipping out the book.
Yeah, right. That's interesting.
Yeah, but there's there's so many sects of Christianity that you have to do this in order to have God's love. So maybe that's which, is not what it's supposed to be, but that is very often the case.
Are you justification through works? Which particular group might you be? But usually, even if there's justification or God is testing you to show that you're worthy of this, the worthy of God's loved one will usually set off fireworks and get many chapters read to you if you start pulling that one.
Wasn't it George Carlin? He had a whole bit where he was like, I'm totally paraphrasing and please forgive me. But, he talked about how, God will kill you and there are wars and he'll kill your firstborn and he'll through plagues. But he loves you. But he loves you.
That's Old Testament, New Testament thing. Because Old Testament is like, and now there's so much smiting. There's a lot of smiting in the first book, not so much smiting in the second book. And but
he loves you.
Carolyn does reassure him. She does reassure him. But he gets Mrs. Oleson dead to rights right down to the chapter notes about like, no, wrong, no, it's Proverbs and it's going. But so, he's generally on it with his Bible book.
So here's my next beef. Beef.
Okay.
Next scene, we're back, or after this, Caroline is back in the mercantile.
Yes.
And Pa is there too, and Mrs. Oleson says she demands an apology. She won't do anything unless she gets an apology from Ma.
Right.
And they refuse to do the apology, right? So here's my beef. They make Laura do that all the time. They make her apologize all the time to Nellie and to terrible people who have done terrible things. But when the shoe is on the other foot, they don't do it. And I had an issue with that too.
This is true, because even when they've told Laura, like, well, yes, you're right, and they were horrible, but we have to take the high road, and you have to say you're sorry for punching her in the face.
And Pa was like, hail to the no.
And then you're like, nah.
I was like, wait, this isn't fair.
He was right. It is interesting how in the service of a story, anything is possible, And so all of that kind of teaching becomes very sort of fungible in a sense, because it's not that it's
did you say
there's
fungible?
No question that
I love that you just said fungible. Okay, go on. Just have to stop and take that.
What did I remember in an audition one time I used a word and
fungible.
The director was there. It wasn't fungible, but I said a word and the director said, anybody you can use that word is hired. And he hired me right
Amazing.
there. So it was just one of those things. It was a little part, but I can't remember what the word is now. It'll come to me. But
That's funny.
My sense of this is always that Michael was so interested in the service of the story he was trying to tell. He didn't worry so much about what happened before or what was going to happen afterwards. The show stood in its own reality.
Absolutely.
I mean, there were threads that were pulled all the time. I mean, but those kinds of threads were very, he could go back and forth or go to different areas in order to serve a story.
And we loved that he did what he did.
Yeah.
It just was also like, wait, but you make the kids do it. Okay.
But real life. How many times have parents told their children, now the right thing to do, we're going to take the high road, but when it hit the fan for them, they're like, it's humans. So the human element, that's a thing. We saw how many times Pa would fly off the handle and Carolyn saying, don't act in haste. So there was also a running theme that they were terribly human and he would completely screw it up every now and again.
Including beating up Almanzo every now and then. Yes.
Sure, because that's what you do.
Yeah. That's just what you look at his face and you want to punch it. It's just what it is.
So it's just the young whippersnapper that needed to be controlled in some way. But it's interesting. So many times we've seen in these scenes, and now were the girls in the scene? In that scene we're talking about? No, it was just Carrie, right?
It was
just Carrie. So, because in other scenes like that, it's one of Michael's favorite devices to say, Pa, you always say blah, blah, blah. And
which they do at the dinner table.
If Mary or Laura had been in that scene, you'd sort of have to...
That's true.
Say something there.
That is true. That is true. I bet if they were in that scene, you're right.
Well, I don't know what he would have done, again, because of the story, but he is not adverse to being corrected by his children. That's a
which happens right after this, because they're all around the table and they're like, "Hey, we're going to work and
we don't need the sugar. You always say it's bad for your teeth, right?"
That's right.
Yeah. And then the coffee keeps you awake at night, Bob.
We don't need too many coffee. Yeah. Which is actually true. It's always like, why are they having coffee right before they go to bed? That's dumb.
That's a little crazy, I think.
And
that's crazy, Pam.
My family's not going to work. And then they're like, but we're supposed to chip in, and we're all doing it. I mean, Carrie's, and
I'll milk the cow. Right, which I thought, what a wonderful thing to establish. So he establishes this knowledge with Carrie right up front. So, of course, that line completely lands. I mean, we saw her do it.
And that's
whether she could ever do it.
So that's why he caves, because Baby Carrie's gone, I'll make the cow, and now he's like, okay.
and then we get Michael's quivering lip, and as he stands up to say, "What a great! I have such an amazing family," and this is the stuff that people criticized Michael for years for that kind of sentimentality. I mean, but. By God, it just lands with people. It's so disarming. It just takes you to this place.
Well, and here's, but I also think the reason why, first of all, if you're bitter about that, who hurt you? What's happening in your life? Like, who hurt you? One. Second of all, I think the difference between Little House and other shows that I've seen that are like family friendly, like family value shows, is that the other shows seem to have a sort of syrupy, saccharine, overproduced
I think of Touched by an Angel. Absolutely could not watch it.
Yeah, and
watch it.
Seventh Heaven was supposed to be that too, and it was just like, there was something so. And it also did not ring true. It didn't feel real, right? Yeah. And in Little House, you have these very simple. I mean, listen, this episode is simple. Like Alison said, there isn't even a B story to it.
Yeah,
like it is the most simple, nothing, right? But there's an authenticity to it. There's such heart to it, and they're not sugarcoating the family values. It just is. It's that core thing that we all strive to either have or wish we had or wish or hope to have with our own families, that rings very, very, very true, very authentic.
Yeah. Well,
it's not slick and it's not polished.
The acting and the writing made it work. And I will tell you, my father, who Dean certainly knew, what cynical as they come, and my father used to say, I hate sentimentality, but he said, I hate fake sentimentality.
That's it. That's the difference.
Sentimentality is okay. And he said, no, the way they're doing it on the show, because of the acting and the writing, he said, it's real. You buy it. He said, I don't just like real sentimentality.
Totally.
He said, fake sentimentality, though, it's just like,
right. And even the music, it's not a phony music. It adds to the
totally.
The heart
David
of it.
Rose's that underscore totally fuels the emotional life of these characters for the audience. It's just it's crystal clear what people are feeling when you listen to the score. But then you can
also have scenes in silence, like we were at the barn, just silence, and that is enough.
No, I think
that's the difference.
I think something else that with the sentimentality, Michael also has a way he can turn that on a dime and find the humor. in a moment, which immediately can yank you back away from the sentimentality into a good-natured laugh. And I think that, I just think that the balance of that he was able to strike allowed the audience to be surprised by where the emotions turn. I mean, people's lives, the emotional lives that we all have, can turn on a dime depending on what happens. And I think Michael, he wrote it that way, and his dialogue is so simple. I mean, Michael doesn't write big, long speeches and Michael would never use fungible in a line. Okay, he just wouldn't. He wouldn't.
Miss Beadle might write it on the board and make everybody learn it. But that's it.
Mrs. Whipple uses it every other sentence. I know.
But he made everything so clearly understood what he was trying to say. I just think when you see an episode like this, you really get that. And I think people respected Michael, but I don't think he had that industry respect that what he did deserved.
Can you
because
imagine?
He captured audiences in this profound way. And continues to capture audience. In a changing world, he still is able to capture people because there's truth in what he's writing about.
That's it.
We should take a quick break because we're just burning time here.
We're going to take a quick break, everybody. Have a fungible time while we're away. We'll be right back.
When you visit Simi Valley, California, you're stepping into the pages of history. Go from the pioneers to the presidents. Explore beautiful wildflowers, hike through iconic Hollywood locations, and end your day aboard the actual Air Force One at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. Throughout the summer, take the Little House 50th Anniversary Tour at Big Sky Movie Ranch. Less than 15 minutes from Los Angeles and 30 minutes from Universal Studios, Simi Valley has small-town charm with big-time history. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more information. We are so grateful to visitsimivalley.com for their commitment to presenting the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast.
I don't even think I'm using it properly.
No, but it's funny.
Made me laugh.
Oh, I know the word I used. It was probative with the director. Because I was there to play a judge. And I talked about something probative. He said, anybody who can use that word in a sense, I'm hiring you right now.
How did you use it in the sense? By the way,
we're back, everybody. I have no idea how I used it in a sense.
We're doing our little dictionary lessons.
But who knows? But it was in the right context. And he just said, wow, anybody who can use that word, I'm hiring you.
Skills. Mad skills.
Get out of high school, the proficiency exam. And when I took the proficiency exam and I finished early, a few people finished early. They were all people I knew. My friends were like, I'm done. And I went up to the guy and I handed him the test papers and I said, sorry, that was a rather tedious test. And he looked at me in exasperation, rolled his eyes and said, you just used tedious in a sentence. I'm telling you, you passed.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Well, then, okay, I'll go.
I think we're back.
We're back.
No, we're totally back.
Yeah, we're
we
totally
were back. On
yeah,
the
vocabularies of everyone from Little House on the Prairie because we do. Everyone who was on the show has like the most amazing freaking vocabulary. Like, yes.
So, all right. So we haven't even gotten to that. Charles going out and finding the jobs.
Okay.
25 cents a day, and then he goes to Baker McKay's house, and
we have to stop to accept the fact that yes, he asked the blacksmith, the scary, scary blacksmith, that we don't know is scary till season 8, 7, whatever it is.
I'm not
Sylvia
sure.
Blacksmith.
But
Anyway, he asks everybody for a job.
Yeah.
I'll never look at that blacksmith ever the same ever.
He gave him the job for 25 cents a day.
Well, the
people in Indonesia have been making sweatshirts for Walmart for 25 cents a day up until pretty recently.
Yeah, they have.
I mean, that really sort of it's really astonishing. actually.
And Mary's raking it in at Mrs. Whipple's, but
right. She made $1.70 for a week's work.
And let me tell you something. May we all have a boss like Miss Whipple in our lives at some point.
The quality of your work, another 25.
She is adorable. She pays well. She tips. She's gracious and kind. And, my whole theory is that she has an illegal mani-pedi operation going on in her basement somewhere, but that's just my theory.
That's where they're all getting the French tips.
The French tips are all coming from Mrs. Whipple's place under there. So Mary's hemming, sewing a hem and a skirt. She's going down and doing the acrylics on the side.
Wow. See,
Now,
this is girl stuff. This is
okay. So
that wouldn't occur to me. It just wouldn't occur.
Poor Laura tells Miss Beadle that the reason she's not finishing her work, well, besides that they're all pulling these double shifts, is I run out of the pads, I run out of the pencils. So Miss Beadle does the super Miss Beadle thing, like you can tell me, I'm your friend, I will buy you stuff, and she even she told Potts like a loan. She's totally cool, but they go to the mercantile. And
we need to get to that moment because this is among your most evil. Because it's the look. Not only what you say is horrible, it's the look on your face
when you see they're even coming.
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
mercantile.
It's like how am I going to destroy this girl right now?
I know. As she walked up and I first see her, I turn and I'm smiling and I realized there was a look of absolute joy and rapture on my face.
Psychopath.
Oh, here she comes. I get to torture her. I'm like so happy.
And you did.
It's that it was that expression of glee. Of knowing that you were about to torture this girl, that makes it particularly horrifying. Also, what you the thing that you say, what you say to her though too, is just so awful. I mean, it's just
it is
so,
awful. And for a little girl who worships her father,
that's right.
To be told this about he smells like he can't get a decent job. Yeah. He has no money. And he smells.
My pa works hard. So does a mule. I mean,
that's a great line. You know what? Look, I think you could probably say something like that, but we have to always think that Michael's putting these words. I mean, he got you so well.
Yeah, he really
got what
did.
That character could be so well.
I always tell people, you people blame me. It's Michael is the one standing next to the camera going, hit her again. He's the one coming up with all these terrible, terrible things I say and do. It's like he's going, writing this stuff. So then she's going to tell her that her paw can't work. He's the evil genius who said all these terrible things.
Yeah.
And so, and then
absolutely,
Laura's crying. She's crying almost as hard as that stuttering girl with the waterworks.
Yes, she is.
And she's sobbing, and I'm just standing.
I would have been too.
I'm going to say more bad things. Yeah.
And also, Willie is just, I just want to slap him too, because, and again, not a proponent of child abuse.
What is that little voice this little voice?
The little whistling, squeaky voice that he had.
It's almost like there's some people that their natural voices aren't their chest voices.
Yeah, they aren't connected.
Falsetto.
Right.
A little baby.
And he has that all falsetto sound.
He did, and it was like
so crazy.
Went till he was like 14, and then literally it was like one day he walked in.
He became hello,
like, snap.
Yeah, he became a young man overnight.
Went from
it seems to
to hello, like instantaneously. He was one of those. But so cute. But yes, we're telling you, your paw can't work, and he smells, and he's terrible, and she's and it's and then Miss Beadle is usually more observant, does not realize that why Laura has run away.
I know.
Right there, it's kind of obvious.
And Clue, ding dong.
And you're so cold-blooded about it, you have no idea what happened.
I don't know why she ran, but it's also like I'm the worst liar. Both Willie and I go, oh yeah, we don't know why she ran away.
Yeah. She just up and ran away. Yeah, she just up and ran away. I mean, all that.
My notes, I have written, Nellie is evil. period.
Yeah.
It's just cruelty, and enjoying the cruelty, which you do so well.
And she winds up
But you
crying
do
in
it
the barn at
incredibly well.
home, and Pa has to. Yes.
How did you
that's
feel?
A great
do you
scene.
remember when you read that script or when you guys were filming that scene? You do. Were you
Yeah.
also
it was a
like,
good one.
Jesus.
It was a good one. I remember. Yeah, Melissa and I had so much fun that day. Oh, we were cracking ourselves up because I was saying all these stuff, and she's like sobbing. We were having so much fun that we were just like, "Yeah, this is a great one. Yeah, like, love this stuff." And we're just like, "Oh, you're so awful." Yes, I am. Oh, so we thought this was great,
God.
and it was
Thank
definitely-
God you guys had that relationship with each other. Could you
that's
imagine?
so fortunate.
if it wasn't like that.
If
But
you
yeah.
hadn't really liked each other,
Oh my
that could have been
gosh.
so toxic. It would have been
Oh my
incredible.
God. Oh yeah, we were like laughing. She's going, "Yeah, you stink too." You know how hard. And we're just killing ourselves. But it was one of those ones where I would sit with the lines like the night before, and go, just kind of read them and try different sort of intentions readings, like your paw smells like a horse, your paw smells like a horse, and go which was the most grating, and find ways to say it and go, well, that's annoying, and then try a different one and go, oh, that's even more annoying. And when I got to the line reading that just made me want to punch myself in the face, I went, and then I go, that's the one.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Fingernails on the, when it was like fingernails on the blackboard sound to me, and I went, oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yep,
Keep that.
one, we'll go with that one. Yep. And so, it was very methodical. Like, how bad can I make this?
Yeah,
And we really do, as awful as it is, having to feel the feelings of the Nellie, Mrs. Oleson, Willie wrath. It is true that we have to have that tension in the show, especially in an episode like this, which is so simple.
And people
otherwise, we've got nothing. We're not fighting for anything. Then.
No, exactly.
People are snobs, and kids are horrible snobs.
Horrible.
Hey, I heard your parents are out of work, and you're having to wear old clothes, and your shoes are from Walmart, and you can't afford.
Yeah, kids are awful.
You say things.
Kids are terrible to
And so
each other.
poor Laura's crying and being in pain. Children have felt this, and people watching it have gone, "Oh, I did this. I did this."
Yeah.
And in '76, during the recession, '75, parents going, "Oh my God, are my kids going to get this at school? We don't have any money. If we can't buy them the new clothes, are they going to come home crying like Laura?" This was horrible for people to watch.
Yeah.
So when Laura finally punches me in the face, yes.
Well, then it's but you're just cheering for her.
Yeah.
And that scene, look, I think the key scene in the show. I'm sorry, you have to it ran away I'm just jumping through my outline here. Laura explains what Nellie said, and Pa, being very forthright, said, "Yeah, I mean, it's true. 2 out of 3. I mean, I clean the stables and I smell bad after working all day. I mean, I don't smell like lemon verbena." But then the key to it is, any job a man can do to make his way in the world is a decent job, as long as he works hard at it and does his best. That is the universal lesson in the show, that line. And that's the line that empowers Laura to go to school the next day after saying, "I love you so much, Pa," and go to school the next day and straighten out Nellie. And she's good at that point. I mean, she is totally good.
And he says, "Aren't you used to Nellie teasing?" And she goes, "Yes, but it wasn't about me."
About me, right?
And he goes,
"So who was it about?"
It's about me, isn't it? That's the heartbreaker right there. It's so good. It's so good. It's all this, and those
really
things
good.
really
It's
happen.
so
A child
good.
will know they insulted my parents. That's why I go,
Yeah.
And people only looking down on hardworking people. People only say people smell bad who stick their nose in the air.
Noses in the air.
Hardworking folks only smell bad to people who have nothing better to do than stick their noses in the air.
Bam.
That's the line. And so that follow-up is actually, it's that follow-up that gives the Laura the power to straighten this out.
And she hits her.
And let's also just say, like, what an important thing for kids to watch and see this. I was just, as we were talking about this, I was thinking, like, what is equivalent to that today? Like, what if we had that my kids could watch and learn these lessons from? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think there's much on television today because there's such moral ambiguity.
But even
everywhere.
since that, I mean,
No,
maybe
I
not
get
for the
it.
past 20, 30 years.
It's hard. It's hard. That kind of moral clarity is very
Without-
hard to identify
without being preachy and
without
the
cloying
saccharine,
sentimentality.
That's it.
Is
Yeah.
really, really tough
Yeah.
to find. I mean,
And
this
a lot
was
of
Michael's
kids,
gift.
Kids TV, a lot of it is focused on material things that you should have the new shoes and the new clothes, and that is put out
Right.
there as a thing. I mean, I think I've seen like a couple cartoons where they like said, no, don't pick on the kid who doesn't have the new shoes. But it's like it's slim pickings for that, and that's what this is like. No, you shouldn't be torturing people who have less than you and punching down, as it were. This is horrible.
Right. Right. I mean, I guess, Dean, this goes hand in hand with your book that you're
Yes, it
going to
does.
be writing.
Yeah, no, exactly. This theme is such a powerful one, and I think so important today. I always hesitate to get into the current thing, but when we've listened to our president tell people that girls don't need 30 dolls. They should be happy with 2 dolls that might cost a few bucks more. It's just sort of it's really an obtuse thing to say, particularly for a guy who's never has to worry about the price of anything.
Right.
We have so many
Groceries,
people
eggs,
in power,
gas.
politicians who've never been to the supermarket, who've never
Right.
put gas in their own car,
Right.
who literally
Right.
have no idea what their constituents even do
Right.
all day. And
Right.
that's a problem. It's hard to hear when there's children. I'm sorry, there's a lot of children with no dolls, and sitting there hearing you can have
Right.
2. There's people at home going, I
Right.
have one. Nobody even-
Right.
So
right,
people
exactly.
are really, having a hard time. And that's why, little people were having a horrible time in the 70s. And that's
Yeah.
why this
Yeah.
show ran
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah. Inflation was running like, it was high. It was
Gasoline
like 9% or something in gas. Well, and of course, gasoline wasn't at today's prices, but relatively, they were. That was the burst from 25 cents a gallon to $1 plus a gallon in 1974, and it just kept going up. Now we're at 150. It was really shocking to people.
That's
when
when
this
Hamburger
happened.
Helper. That's when Hamburger Helper got invented and became popular because
Yeah.
people didn't have food.
Right. They
Yeah,
could afford
right.
ground
Right.
chuck
Cheap ground beef.
and pasta, and noodles.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, and I
this episode
apologize for
rocks.
bringing the contemporary reference into that. So
Don't
I'll
apologize.
just
It's
apologize
that's
for that.
but
Okay.
don't apologize also because the reason why this show is still relevant
Is
is because
because
it
of
still
those kinds
ties
of
into
moments.
present day and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
certainly what's currently going on in the United States of America, it absolutely comes into play. You
Yeah.
know, these lessons of just basic empathy, being kind to each other.
That's right.
And what Alison said, like, why are we punching down? Why are we punching down?
Right.
And people have to, maybe that is not an innate human thing. I mean, maybe people have to be taught compassion. Obviously something has to be taught.
Oh, I think people do. I don't think it's necessarily a natural
Empathy,
thing at all.
kindness, right.
I
think to a certain
learned
extent it is.
behavior.
That's
it is
right.
learned behavior. And I think
Right.
this is what Michael was so good at, was offering foundational lessons through very clear, unambiguous examples of how a way to consider behaving and a way to look at and say that maybe this is how you don't want to behave.
Right.
Because this is the cost of that behavior.
Right.
And I just think that clarity is so important. And I agree, Alison, what you just said. I mean, it is why the show continues to be relevant, because it does teach those simple lessons.
And then I'm bleeding and they leave me there. And even though I'm there.
Oh, right. Then there's that. The whole kindness, empathy
coming out of my
thing.
nose. And it's like, well,
Punch Nellie
Well,
in
let's
the face.
after you come in, let's play horsey. Laura's father smells like a horse. Let's get
play
him and
horsey.
ride him. I mean, come on.
Ew.
Of course you got punched.
Yeah, you're just such a punchable face.
Oh my God. The sneer, the cold, it's the ice cold eyes that are, it's just like all that brain matter is spinning, and it's coldly, it's like laser focus on how can I screw up this person.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like
it.
Unbelievable.
That's the face. Yeah, it's horrible. And then Glee.
And then,
Yes. Wait, I just need to say one thing. So remember how I've talked about the school mom episode where Ma comes home from a really hard day at school and Pa's there and she's like, oh, I have to cook dinner now. And he's like, don't worry. I've already cooked it.
Yes,
and that's hot. Like, yay. Okay.
You're
This
a mom
episode,
who comes home and cooks. Yeah.
This episode, we have Pa coming home from a hard day, and Ma is in the field plowing the field,
sweaty.
Yeah.
And and he practically drops his pants right there in the field. It is so awesome.
Sweaty. I mean, we've seen Pa sweaty, and I have to say, when Miss Beadle came by and he had the shirt open and the sweat, I did not notice how shiny his chest was as a young person. As an older lady, I went, his chest is rather shiny. That's very shiny. Stunning. And here, yes, they've both been working hard. They're both covered in dirt and sweat. She's not all clean. He's not. They're both filthy, dirty, and sweaty. And it's like, I love you. And it's
hot,
like hot, sweaty, dirt covered, hard working. Love it. And then they
one of the hottest kisses I think they ever did.
By far. By far.
The horse starts pawing the ground.
Symbolism. Even the horse knows.
Symbolism. I'm telling you, the horse is like, nay. Things are going on in that shot.
Yeah, it's
a great scene. Oh my gosh.
It's a wonderful scene.
So good.
It's a wonderful scene, and it says so much about their relationship, and it also says I don't know, where they were personally at the beginning of season 2. I would imagine that they had already entered some degree of issues with each other.
Yeah.
But boy, I always look at them and say, boy, they could put that aside. And that moment was pretty spectacular.
Everybody should have an Emmy from this freaking show, because there are people who are like, were they getting along? No, not really. But wait, they love each other. But yes, because they can act. These people should also have gotten Emmys, because even if they were mad at somebody, they went, okay, time to go make the show. And we made the show.
Yeah. You just turn the emotion where it needs to go.
And I was thinking that too, Dean. I was like, I think they probably hated each other during this.
That was a hell of a kiss.
You would never know.
It was a great kiss.
Yeah.
Now, he did drop back. I mean, who knows what was really happening in that kiss? We'll never know. I mean, that would be a great question for Karen to ask.
She's probably blocked it out.
If she remembered that kiss. But it's a great moment in the show.
It really is.
So, yeah, I gotta like that a lot.
And then they show up that old lady with the money. We have the money.
That's right. So the final scene, they all come to the mercantile.
Yeah.
Oh, and the way they ask for their stuff, and I would like several more tablets. Yes, and I would, and sugar. And
sugar, right? Exactly. And we're paying cash, so it's like, which obviously would have been music to Mrs. Olson's ears. She's not, wanting to get into credit again right away, but it takes us. Everything that's happened in the episode leads us to that moment of satisfaction that they have resolved this, and they have honored their commitment. They've done it to the best of their ability. Something that was a great piece of trivia today. Pa's counting coins and bills, and he hands Mrs. Olson bills. There's no change in what he hands her. So it's like, little things like that. People notice that stuff. As I was reading about it today, that struck me. It's like, oh, wow. And I never would have picked up on that.
Yep.
But wait, what were you reading?
Oh, it was actually... So it was on the littlehouseontheprairie.com episode guide, and they always do little pieces of trivia. And so someone, whoever is watching and fueling that, I mean, who knows, but they've done some really good observations about the show. That's just sort of interesting, quirky stuff. And that was one of those things. Counting coins, and then he hands her the folded bills, and you can count it. It's all here.
Very good.
That was a good observation.
I noticed it. I totally went, oh.
Did you?
Well, and then the most touching thing, which is Nels is the one that delivers the infamous line, poor Nels, of
poor
you're
Nels
the richest
right.
man in Walnut Grove.
Yeah.
Makes me so sad for Nels. But
Nels is jealous. Nels is jealous of children.
well, he knows what he doesn't have.
Yeah.
He knows.
No, exactly.
He even says, I would like to think my children
But
will be
yes,
better."
I would like to
No.
think.
And he goes, "What?" No.
Yeah, I know that they would do that. Yeah. And we all know that wouldn't happen. They'd be complaining bitterly every second about it. Yeah. No, Nels, well, look, Nels as an element is what makes his family, what makes Harriet and Nellie so redeemable beyond the humor. But it's Nell's ability to love them.
Yeah.
That makes them, you've got, as Reverend Alden said, sometimes it's hard to understand people, or try not to be so hard on people if you can. You sometimes, what did he say? Something, you have to look a little harder to find the good.
If you're good in all people, some it's a little harder to find.
Harder to find. Yeah. That's a really, you were, before we started, weren't you saying something about that scene, Pamela or Alison? You thought, but it was something about, well, he said he was sloshing like a watering trough or something, because he was going everywhere and having tea. And then Pa, he runs it back. Then 30 seconds, 45 seconds later, Pa runs it back after the Reverend says, "You've missed your calling."
Right.
Oh no, I don't like tea, and they have a good laugh.
Yeah.
Michael buttons things so well. He plants a seed and pays it off. Everything pays off. And it's funny, that's sort of the end of the episode. You're the richest man in Walnut Grove.
Beautiful.
I noticed as the series went on, and towards the end, when Michael was not as involved, because he wasn't there all the time. He was around, but there were things in episodes that just didn't add up.
Yeah,
in the end. And I think that if Michael had been more engaged, that I think those threads would have been caught, and he would have pulled those threads through more accurately. But he was just brilliant about it. He really was. And the more you watch this, and look, I think we've talked about this. Because of this book that I'm writing, I am really making a commitment to watch the series much more in its entirety.
Had you seen this episode? You'd seen this episode before,
I
right?
had not. I had not seen this episode.
Oh, you have to tell us.
I know
the
title. Yeah, well, I obviously knew the title because it's a really catchy title.
You're right.
But I had not seen it, and it's
I love
just
that
so
you're
good.
experiencing this for the first
Yeah,
time.
no,
I'm
loving it. It's giving me this ever deepening appreciation for what we were all involved in. That
Sure.
I always knew that we were involved in something good, but when you watch it, look, there's also For the Love of Blanche, which I didn't, quite get.
It always
at the end.
always
That's sort of
comes
my
back
jump
to
the
the love of
shark.
Brit.
That's my
Yeah.
jump the shark episode.
Yeah.
But
I think
when
that's
you
everyone's
look
jump the
particularly
shark episode.
early in the early years of the series, that's why it has been so loved.
Yeah, and it must make you understand the fandom even more too, watching these episodes that you've never seen, that are really like the core foundation of the fandom and why people love it so much.
Why
it must
they
be
love it so much,
interesting for you, Dean.
Oh, I'm enjoying it a lot and appreciating the work that people, and you can see people's work. I mean, I know all these names in the credit roll. I know most of them. The cinematography in this episode, Ted Voigtlander shot this episode. Ted was Michael's favorite guy. He shot with everybody. He shot with Buzz Boggs too.
Buzzy.
But Michael's choice was to shoot with Ted, and Buzz did the other episodes and did more of Bill Claxton worked more with Buzz. Both fantastic, very different in the way they lit. I think Ted was really, they were both artistic, but I think Ted was really a master of light. He could make those, particularly in scenes that are lit by candlelight.
I was about to say
fireside.
That stood out so beautifully. How beautiful that looked.
Yeah, that scene. The scene where, we need to jump out here, and I'm sorry we need to do, but the scene where Michael is expressing his, where he wakes up and he can't sleep. He's totally backlit.
Yeah.
So the lights on Ma, he's right there in the foreground, but you can't see his face as he's talking about how sad he is.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't see that.
No.
That's not a lighting choice that most with the star of the program would make. But Michael,
you wouldn't see that kind of stillness either these days.
TV in the 70s. Yeah. It was so overlit. Everybody was like a blaze of light all the time.
It was the Universal Studios episodic approach where you slammed the light in everywhere.
It was so bright.
There was no texture in anything. It was just
our show was super texture and dark and shadows and things. And it's just, I love going back and watching old episodes because I go, I forgot this one. And I remember just how much fun this stuff was to shoot, and I just am. And then I'm floored with how good everything was.
It was. It was absolutely the most beautiful show on television in its era, and I think it would give. Look, there's a lot of beautiful photography on television today because cameras and lenses and the speed of these chips on the digital cameras is so exceptional. Lenses have gotten so good, but we shot with we had the Panavision truck there. There were 50 lenses on that truck. You could pull out anything you wanted. The whole package was there, so they had the full array of toys to work with. And Ted really knew how to make everything look beautiful. And the show is just so special. We need to race for the exit. Pamela.
Yeah, take that, Waltons. It all comes back to that.
Yes, the Waltons was not beautifully lit. I will say
it's some pretty episodes.
It was okay.
Them's are fighting
but
words.
It was not. It was not. It did not have the texture that Little House had visually.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna
he's
say.
He's thrown down another gauntlet.
I know.
They're not gonna quibble with me on that.
All right. Well, don't expect another social media post. That's all I'm going to say. After
anything from John Boy now.
John Boy is.
I don't think they would have worried about that. As they're doing scenes around the dinner table with 10 people at the dinner table every single time, they didn't want to have to relight for everybody. They needed to have that and just move the camera and let's shoot.
Right. Let's just get her done. Get her done.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think we got her done today with this episode, this beautiful episode. I just love this episode. It's so lovely. But thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. What else? Anything else? Sure. Join us on socials. Little House 50 Podcast. Our website, www.littlehouse50podcast.com. Join us on Patreon. We're going to do that right now. And if you're not a member, what are you waiting for? Come on, do it. We're fun. Also, we had a Patreon live Q&A this past week. It was fabulous. Such great questions. Such great questions. We had such a good... I think we were on for over an hour and a half.
Oh, what? It was a long one.
It was a long time. It was so much fun. And the patrons
made that happen.
They sure did. They were amazing. So anyway, come and join us if you haven't joined us already, and we will see you next time. Bob, get the wig. Let's fly, everybody. Let's do it. He's right there.